Michael Jackson was the most famous man on earth, loved, obsessed over, watched by millions. But beneath the glittering glove and moonwalk, he was someone plagued by something far darker than fame. Long before the tabloids whispered scandals or the lawsuits began piling up, Michael had been quietly fighting a war. Against sleep. He called it the demon hour, a time of night when his heart would race, when the walls would breathe and when silence felt loud. In multiple interviews, he mentioned how he hadn't slept properly in years, not because of stress or excitement, but because, in his own words, "I feel like someone is watching me when I close my eyes." To escape the torment, Michael turned to a powerful drug, propofol, a medical anesthetic normally used during surgery. It wasn't a sleeping pill. It was sedation, the kind that shuts down your consciousness entirely. He didn't want to sleep. He wanted to disappear. And for hours at a time each night he did. But something else may have slipped in during those blank spaces. Close friends and personal staff described eerie encounters during his nighttime rituals. One bodyguard claimed he saw Michael standing completely still at 3 in the morning, facing a wall, whispering to himself. When asked if he was okay, Michael replied with a flat voice, "He's not me. He wears my face, but he's not me." Another assistant recalled a chilling moment in the hallway outside his bedroom. She said she heard 2 voices, speaking softly, both in Michael's tone but overlapping, almost arguing with each other. When she opened the door, he was alone, sitting upright, eyes wide open, staring into nothing. Michael also claimed he experienced sleep paralysis almost every night. He described a tall shadow that stood at the foot of his bed, not moving, just watching. "It doesn't blink," he once told a doctor. "It waits. And I think it's learning how to be me." And then there were the mirrors. At Neverland and in hotel rooms, Michael often requested that mirrors be covered at night. One cleaner said she once forgot to do so. When Michael walked in, he stared at the uncovered mirror for several seconds before whispering, "He smiles when I don't." After that, the mirror was removed entirely. In his personal journals found after his death, Michael had written fragmented phrases like, "It knows the songs before I write them. Not dreams, messages. The man in the mirror wants out." He couldn't sleep. And maybe, just maybe, so that was the point. Maybe something was trying to reach him when his mind was unguarded. Or maybe it already had, and every time he closed his eyes, it came a little closer to becoming him. To the world, Neverland was Michael Jackson's fairy tale, a place of laughter, carousels, zoo animals, and childlike wonder. But behind the gates, past the carefully curated fantasy, there were whispers, soft at first, then louder with time, that Neverland was not just a sanctuary. It was a prison, a haunted kingdom built not just for escape, but to contain something that should never have been set free. The estate spanned over 2,500 acres. But despite its size, Michael insisted certain areas remain locked, even from staff. The underground room beneath the main house, for example. Some believed it was a private vault. Others said it was something else entirely. Former employees began to speak up years after leaving. One housekeeper recalled hearing a music box, playing by itself in the middle of the night, always the same tune, always at exactly 3:15. When she followed the sound, it would stop. But once she opened a door and found the music, box sitting perfectly still, yet the melody continued, though no mechanism was moving. A groundskeeper described a section of the garden Michael referred to as the circle. It was an arrangement of statues, angels, children, animals placed in such a way that, when viewed from above, formed a 5-pointed star. In the center stood a single black statue, a faceless figure with outstretched arms. Michael never explained its meaning, but he told the staff never to touch it, never to photograph it, and never to enter the circle after dark. Then there were the rooms. One nanny claimed that in Michael's private quarters, clocks would randomly stop at 1:11. Batteries were replaced, clocks changed, but it always returned to that number. Another staff member swore that one morning, she found a name scratched into a fogged-up mirror. "Do you remember?" No one else was in the house that night. The cameras captured nothing, but the hallway audio recorded faint giggling. One of the strangest stories came from a backup dancer who stayed at Neverland. During rehearsals, He said that on his first night, he woke up to find a child standing at the foot of his bed, silent, eyes wide, pointing toward the window. When the dancer turned to look, nothing was there. When he looked back, the child was gone. Michael never addressed it, but later asked him quietly, did he say anything? Even Michael seemed afraid of something on that property. One visitor overheard him muttering, I brought it here. I didn't mean to, but I did. When asked what he meant, he simply said, Neverland isn't mine anymore. With time, the ranch became a shell of itself. Laughter faded. The ride stopped. The animals were gone, but those who stayed behind said the energy never left. Some claimed it only grew stronger, like the place was feeding on silence. Neverland was supposed to be magic, but maybe it was cursed from the beginning. Or maybe it was home to something waiting for the right soul to let it in. Michael Jackson didn't just make music, he delivered messages. Some were wrapped in pop melodies, others disguised in dance and spectacle. But in his final years, the messages became louder and darker. One song in particular stands out, They Don't Care About Us. At first, it seemed like a protest anthem, a cry against racism and inequality. But the more you listened, the more it felt like something else, a warning. In live rehearsals, Michael added lines that weren't part of the original lyrics. Phrases like, they're trying to kill me, and don't trust the system. Was he just venting his frustration, or was he being watched? In a leaked phone recording, Michael is heard saying, there's a group of people. They want to get rid of me. They want my catalog. I'm not safe. His voice is low, trembling, not like a performance, but like a man who truly feared for his life. People around him noticed the change. He stopped trusting his closest advisors. He cancelled meetings without reason. He changed his phone numbers constantly. Even his bodyguards were rotated often, none allowed to stay long enough to form a relationship. One of his last bodyguards, who remained anonymous, claimed Michael once handed him a note in silence. It read, if anything happens to me, don't believe it was an accident. But his warnings weren't only verbal. His final songs became eerie, almost prophetic. In Morphine, he describes being sedated and manipulated. In Threatened, he talks about becoming a monster created by the media, whispering, I am the thing you fear. And then there was This Is It, the comeback tour that never came to be. Behind the scenes, Michael looked gaunt and distant. He told dancers he felt like someone was watching him even in his dreams. One backup singer recalled Michael telling her, I feel like my soul is fading, like I'm not fully here anymore. During one rehearsal, the lights flickered. The sound system glitched. Everyone stopped. Michael, standing in the middle of the stage, whispered, they don't want this show to happen. No one knew who they were, but in that moment no one questioned it. A few days before his death, he spoke to his friend, Lenny Kravitz, and said something strange. They're going to say it was my heart, but that won't be true. Lenny later admitted he didn't understand what he meant until it was too late. Some believe Michael knew too much about the industry, about powerful people, about what really happens behind the velvet curtains of fame. And some believe he tried to fight back, not with violence but with his voice. But maybe that voice got too loud. Maybe that's why it had to be silenced. June 25th, 2009, the world stood still as the news broke. Michael Jackson was dead. The king of pop gone. Official cause, cardiac arrest. But almost immediately the questions began. His personal doctor, Dr. Conrad Murray, was accused of administering the fatal dose of propofol. But details didn't add up. The dosage, the timeline, the silence. Murray's own statements shifted. Some said he took too long to call emergency services. Others wondered why the security cameras at Michael's home stopped recording just hours before. But behind the medical mystery was something colder, older. Witnesses said Michael was acting strangely days before. He spoke in riddles. He seemed tired, not just physically, but as if part of him had already left. A dancer recalled seeing him standing alone in the empty Staples Center after rehearsal, whispering, "This is it. This is really it." He wasn't smiling. A sound technician, reviewing the final recordings of rehearsals, said he heard something beneath the vocal track, an unexplained hum. When isolated, it resembled slow, distorted breathing, even though the mic was off. And then there was the time of death, 2:26 p.m. On paper, it meant nothing. But for those who studied occult symbolism, the numbers were familiar. 226 is tied to sacrifice, rebirth, and duality in esoteric traditions. Coincidence or message? After his passing, strange things continued. Some fans claimed they saw Michael in their dreams, not as a memory, but speaking, warning, asking questions. One woman said she heard him say, "Don't believe what they told you." Another fan swore that on the night of his death, Thriller started playing on their old unplugged radio. In a leaked photo taken at Neverland, months after his burial, a figure can be seen in the hallway, tall, thin, wearing a fedora. The image was never proven fake. Paranormal experts who reviewed it said the energy around it was electrically unstable. The file crashed several systems during analysis. And then there's this. Michael's voice allegedly appeared in a radio broadcast a year after his death. During a static glitch on a Los Angeles talk show, listeners heard a brief whisper, "I'm still in the music." The audio was captured, analyzed, and the voice matched his tone, pitch, and cadence. Some believe he faked his death. Some say he was taken. Others say the body buried in Forest Lawn Cemetery isn't really his. But there's a darker theory, that Michael's death wasn't the end, that in his fight against whatever followed him, from the mirror, from the music, from Neverland, he didn't win, that his soul, or what was left of it, was pulled into something else, a dimension between sound and silence, fame and fear. Where music doesn't play, it echoes. And if you listen closely enough, you might still hear his final note.